Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you for being here. It's a pleasure to be here at the 10th AdTech event. I just did a session for them last year, so they said, why don't you come across and do this session in London? So it's an absolute privilege to be here, because I've always believed in technology, and I think brands are going to be reshaped fundamentally by technology this decade, and that's why I'm really proud to be here. So what can the West learn from the East? Sounds a bombastic topic. This is the topic they gave me a year ago. Okay, I thought about it, but I'll try and weave the story in terms of where is East headed and what can West do in line with the East. Okay, that's how I'll try and weave my story through. So let's go. What I'm going to cover for you is three things over the next 20-25 minutes. First, we live in a digital world, and I want to show you through some stats how stark that is. Point number one. Number two, the 6 lessons that I have seen which marketeers and brands need to really pick up. And finally, the implications for all of us when we talk of a digital world. Okay, so these are the 3 things that I'm going to talk about. So first, let's go. If I look at the structure of the world, how many countries are there with more than 100 million population today? There are just 12. Just 12 countries with a population of more than 100 million. Of these 12 countries, 10 are emerging economies or developing economies. Call them East for lack of a better classification. Only 2 in that list, which is America and Japan, are part of that list. This picture is not going to change dramatically in the next decade. It's not going to change by 2020. It's not going to change by 2025. We might have 15 countries, but essentially the bulk of it is here. Why do I start my argument with this? I start my argument with this because traditionally from the West, we've looked at Eastern markets as saying, that's 100 million population, but they don't spend much. They don't have access to this. They don't have access to that, etc. I want to prove to you digitally through all the stats that's completely untrue in a digital world. Completely untrue in a digital world. So if you really want to win anything in digital, your business, your brand, whatever you're talking about, you have to focus on the East. Okay? That's my first point for you. Most important, okay, I talked of the number of countries. There are about 200 countries. Let's look at the number of free countries in this world. The number of free countries in this world out of 200 is 88. The other 110 are partially free or not free at all. Why do I raise this as an important point? Because digital is the route for freedom in many a country. Digital is the route to freedom. Digital gives power to the people. Digital gives society a voice. So every single debate we've had in the past, is the sword mightier than the pen mightier than the sword, is news more important, etc. I submit to you, through 200 years of history, if there's one thing which has changed dictators, changed governments, changed practices, it's digital. The impact of digital, and I believe the West can learn a hell of a lot from what's happening out there in the East, in the way societies are churning some bad practices, churning them for the good, and really getting good governance into their countries. So this is the first thing. So digital is a democratic enabler. That's my first big point to you. We live in a digital world, okay? And I was very closely involved with Nokia for a number of years through this whole journey, and I can talk reams and reams about it. We have 7 billion people in the world. We have 6 billion SIM cards. We have 5.2 billion mobile phones. We have more than 2 billion smartphones. Today, mobile internet is much bigger than fixed internet. So for example, let me show you a few numbers. Smartphones, the total number of smartphones in the West is 850 million. 850 million. Any ideas what's the number of smartphones in the East? West defined as America plus Europe. You throw in a Japan also, no worries. What's the smartphone number in the East compared to 850 in the West? Any ideas? Please go ahead. 1,300. So today, as I speak before you, there are 500 million smartphones more in the East than in the West. Today. But our thinking is still West. 500 million more. Feature phones. The West has 833 million feature phones. And the East has 2,190 million feature phones. Okay? 1.3 million gap. Okay? But if you tailor your work, you can do a lot with feature phones, which is what a number of the marketeers, a number of business people are doing in the East. Tailor the message for the feature phone. So feature phones will upgrade. Last year, 1 billion feature smartphones were sold. This year, 1.2 billion. I believe next year there will be 1.2 billion. So today we are talking in a world of 5.2 billion phones, 2.1 billion smartphones, and 3.1 billion feature phones. Okay? So really, really big. Let's look at what's happened in the last decade. Okay? First two rows are internet users. In the West in 2005, we had 508 million internet users. In 2015, which is next year, it will be 672. So the West would have grown the internet usage by about 164 million users. The East, exactly a decade ago, the East had 238 million users. Today, they have 1,390 million users. They have grown 1 billion in the same decade. So in ratio terms, it's close to 9 times what the West has grown. Simple internet usage. Let's look at fixed internet, mobile internet. No correlation to the first one. Fixed internet used to be 167 in 2005. Today, it's 573. Look at mobile internet. 0 to 2.1 billion. 0 to 2.1 billion. Third, amount of data per annum. 30 exabytes in 2005, 966 now. Okay? Absolutely huge. So this has happened in 10 years. Just imagine what's going to happen in another 10 years. Okay? This is going to be really, really big. Now let's look at the time taken for some of the big things. How much time did it take for each of the big ideas to hit 50 million users? It took radio 38 years to hit 50 billion users. Radio was about connecting to what the government had to say, connecting to your passion, which was music. There were no images, no picture. TV was about listening to what the government said, was watching soap opera, not interactive. Both 1 and 2 are not interactive. Third, internet took 4 years to hit 50 million users. Connecting to people, connecting to passion, connecting to news, connecting to everything. iPod, connecting to music, big passion, 3 years. Facebook, current run rate, 200 million per annum virtually. 200 million per annum. This connects people, connects society, connects you to every single thing you want. So every single idea which was big in the first 4 or 5 is now delivered through the social system. Okay? So very, very big. Now let's look at digital products and their adoption in the Eastern world compared to the Western world. All of us talk about mobile penetration. That's passé. I don't think you should worry about quoting mobile penetration anywhere. Mobile penetration in most markets, even the poorest of countries, is upwards of 75%. Okay, so that's the first column. Uganda, 80%, Tanzania, 77%, Ghana, 100%, India, 75%, South Africa, 85%, UK, 100%, USA, 100%, Spain, 100%. The catch is the next 2 columns. And the catch is, what is the GDP per capita in purchasing power parity terms? And how many digital devices does a consumer own? So if you do simple maths now, any GDP per capita in purchasing power parity terms, if it is $10,000 and below, then that society has only 2 to 2.3 digital devices. And invariably, one of them is the mobile phone. The other could be a television, the other could be a transistor. Okay? So that's point number 1. Any economy below 10,000 GDP purchasing power parity has only 2 digital devices. Anybody above $30,000, you can see 6 to 7 digital devices. And when I say digital devices, I'm talking about the following: laptop, tablet, e-reader, camera, MP3 player, smartphone, gaming devices, TV, photo frames, TV boxes. 10 of them. If I take 10 of them, this is what's the situation when you have a per capita income like that. Now let's split that by countries and see how many countries are there with that kind of number. If I split it by country, you'll find that 155 countries have just 2 digital devices. 75% of this world, of the countries of this world, have just 2 digital devices, and one of them is a mobile phone. So with all this data being thrown at you, I just want you to recognize that mobile is the way forward. So my argument, whenever I hear a marketer tell me, we have a digital marketing department, I'm surprised. We live in a digital world. So you have to market in a digital world as opposed to having a digital department. If you're really thinking about a digital department, you are the equivalent of the dinosaurs. Okay? You will die. You have to think of marketing in the context of a digital world as opposed to thinking of marketing as a digital activity. Okay? It's completely wrong and backward thinking. And the three big trends I see happening out there in the East, which will catch on here much faster: mobile, social, e-commerce. Okay? And this is what I'll spend some time on. All three are very big, and various business models are coming to fore. So how big? Mobile, social, e-commerce. Let me give you an example from India. In India, all the newspaper circulation put together is about 130 million. All the various languages we have. Hindi 22 million, English 17, Malayalam 7, Marathi 6, Tamil 4, Telugu 4, Bengali 4, Kannada 2. Add that all up, per annum 130 million. Today I have no doubt, absolutely no doubt, they won't tell me the numbers, but I have no doubt, Facebook has more than 130 million users in India. Today. If I add all the others, it's possibly at 160, 180. Okay? So that's the first one. So social media is far, far bigger than all the circulation of the traditional newspaper. Let me give another example. More stark. Brazil. Total number of people on social media, 96. Total newspaper circulation, 4. This is not even a fight. Okay? This is not even a fight. Okay? So think about it. Okay? In the developing economies, consumers have gone far quicker social than ever before. And they will keep going there and keep doing a lot more. Which leads me, what are the lessons that I pick up? Having seen this revolution of mobile, seeing the revolution of social, and just the emergence of e-commerce in most of the developing economies. I take 6 big lessons for all of us. Number 1, low affordable price into slim margins is lots and lots of opportunity. Lots and lots of opportunity. Okay? So, for example, the Eastern world places an enormous emphasis on education. So if your child is not doing well, you send him to a tutor. Okay? One tutor for maths, one tutor for science, one tutor for English, whatever it is. Okay? Now somebody in India got this bright idea to say, hey, why can't I sell this kind of a service on the net via Skype to America? And lo and behold, a new company was born called Tutor Vista. That's exactly what they do. They've got a bank of 100, 800 teachers. All they do is sign up students. Any student who wants education in maths, anything, on a Skype call, 1 hour, maybe 3 hours a week, done. Simple business model. Teachers are in India, students are in the USA, and it's connected. So imagine what that could do for any profession where you want to train, educate, whatever you want to do. Okay? So that's one example. Second, Facebook. Facebook in many of the emerging economies with the operators, they give you Facebook for 1 rupee a day. That's the equivalent of 1 penny. 1 penny you log on to Facebook. Here's the interesting part. People are not logging onto Facebook the way people do in the West through email. They're doing it through telephone numbers. Okay, a completely different business model. Okay, so snacking, small snacking. The same concept of snacking will come to videos because the East is a big entertainment market. Okay, so video snacking at 2 pence, 3 pence, 5 pence, 10 cents will be big. So my submission to you, when you're thinking, think low affordable price, slim margins, but in converting those millions and millions of people which I showed you there, okay, you have tons of business there. So that's my first point for you, and 2 examples, Tutor Vista and Facebook. The other one is a lot of the West thinks big and process, which is good. Okay, in the West, if you fail, but if you followed the process, you're a good boy. Okay, which is operation successful, but patient dead. Have you ticked all the boxes of the process? Very good. That doesn't get you results. The East is exactly the opposite. The East is intuitive and not much process-led. So my submission to you, if you really want to win in the East, or to think about the principles of the East, think small and scale up. Don't think big and put this huge structure with a huge cost. That doesn't work. Okay, so in a digital world, thinking big is actually a big mistake. Start small, ramp up big. Okay, that's what I find in a digital world. Next, the missed call business. A lot of people have read a lot about this, heard a lot about this. This is a very unique thing. This started as actually an economic arbitrage. When phone calls were 16 rupees, or let's take 16 penny. So what happened was, the poorer person, or the less economically advanced person, called the richer person, and then shut his phone off. Okay, the message was clear, you call me back. Okay, so typically, a daughter would call her mother or father and switch the phone off, saying, call me back. So a missed call was a short code for saying, I am free now, please call me back. Now, the number of businesses which have come on the back of this is not funny. Okay, today, when you talk of classical marketing, you talk of awareness, interest, desire, action, classic model that all of us have learned. What the missed call has done is to move people, impact. Today, there are people who say, on television network, if you are aligned with this social cause that we're talking about, whatever it is, child education, women's safety, security, whatever it is, give us a missed call. And suddenly you have 1 million people calling in with that missed call. So you're impacting people with that. Okay? Now, online auditions, every single thing. You want a brand message to go across, you're interested in this brand message, you want to create impact, give us a missed call. Okay? So this has become a big business in itself. Okay? A big business model, and many people are profiteering from it. But they've developed the ecosystem around it. Okay? And that's the important point. These are simple ideas which cost nothing, but you have to build the whole system around that. Okay? So the missed call business is a great example in India. Next, e-commerce. Possibly the biggest disruption which will happen in the FMCG category or in any other category across the world. And it starts with the East. Okay? E-commerce is going to be big because traditionally FMCG has established a distribution network. They've gone and served grocers. They've gone and served modern trade, whoever you call it. For the first time, FMCG is going to be disrupted with technology, where the consumer has a direct access to you. Okay? And look at some of the simple business models which are coming out of the East. Okay? For example, on e-commerce, you can actually start bargaining now. Okay? That's a new business model, where you say, yeah, you said $10. No, I'm haggling now, $9. Okay, you said 9, no, I'm haggling, I still don't like it, $8.50. Okay, so imagine that combination now. Okay? You have an e-commerce model, but with bargaining thrown in. Will work fantastically well in Italy and India, two of the biggest bargainers in the world. Okay? That's one. Second, one of the reasons why e-commerce is doing well is a very simple thing. In a bulk of the Western world, you have credit cards. In a bulk of the Eastern world, you don't have credit cards. You don't have credit cards, you don't have social security. You cannot force somebody on a payment that he's supposed to make to you. Okay? So what do? Cash on delivery. So the bulk of e-commerce is, you book it with me, I deliver it to your doorstep, you ask for a pair of shoes, you ask for a satchel, you ask for a tie, you ask for whatever it is. I deliver it to your doorstep, and you pay me in cash. Okay? So in a market where you don't have credit cards, don't have access to that, this is a simple business model where somebody has turned it on its head. Third business model, even better. There is a site which allows the consumer to pick 3 items. So suppose you want to buy shoes. They will send you 3 shoes. You buy one, you can send the other 2 back if you don't like them. You like the second one, keep it, pay for it. So here's the ultimate. They're actually taking the store to the consumer doorstep. They're saying, here's the model you like. I'll give you roughly similar color, 2 more. You want some other colors? Tell me. I send you 3. You pick one, pick 2. Doesn't matter. Send me the rest back. Okay, that's an outstanding service, digital. That's a completely new business model. So there are lots and lots of e-commerce business models which are coming through. But the key about e-commerce in the Western world compared to the Eastern world, you have to build a strong ecosystem. Physical delivery matters. Okay, overcoming the physical delivery challenges is the biggest challenge in East. And the West, of course, while good at it, I think you'll have to start thinking of these kind of choice models. Okay, try and buy. Okay. Next, point number 5. User-generated content. You'll be surprised to know today that for 1 unit of content consumed, many consumers today are generating 1 unit of user-generated content. 1:1 already. The Western world moved from laptops to something before they came to mobile phones. Okay. The Eastern world has completely jumped the laptop generation once and for all. They've gone straight into mobile phones, social and entertainment. Okay? So for every unit consumed, there's a unit being generated. Okay? So many brands, implication for brands. There are so many brands out there who are using the creation of the co-creation technique. They're throwing half an ad at consumers and saying, complete the ad for me. Please complete the ad for me. What do you think should be the ending of this ad? And believe you me, there are lots of people with lots of views. Lots and lots of people jumping in saying, I think this is how you should end this ad. This protagonist must say this, or this protagonist must do this, whatever it is. So co-creation of very basic things which we talk in marketing about advertising and messaging is being done right now. Co-creation of products is an obvious one which the West has done for a long time. Okay? So the one important thing which social has done in Eastern markets, it's unleashed creativity. It's unleashed creativity of a very different order. Okay? So these societies are becoming far more innovative, far more creative without going through the stage gate and the processes. Okay? Just because of talking to each other and harnessing the power of each other's ideas. Okay? So that's something which social has done dramatically. Next, as she mentioned, you have to be hyperlocal. Okay? And there are many, many examples of being hyperlocal. Culturally, okay, the East is all about arranged marriages. Second marriages are rare. So how do you do that digitally and make a big success of it? And many sites have done that. Many, many sites. Okay? You want to, let's take, pray, but you don't have the access or the money to go to whichever temple you want. How do you access that? Via Skype. Those business models are also there. So tomorrow, imagine you don't need to go to the Vatican. The Vatican comes to your doorstep via Skype, and you're able to chat with whoever is there and then do it. These business models are already working in the East. Okay? They're not what I'm prophesizing. They're already there. You know, it's happening out there. The other one, bus. There's no bus system in the world, in the West I know of, where there is a site to buy bus tickets. But there's a guy out there called Redbus, who has built a whole ecosystem with very thin margins, very, very thin margins, but developing a full ecosystem by independently getting each carrier registered, each carrier trusted, ensuring that the ticket seats are there, the tickets are delivered. With the thinnest of margins, by creating an ecosystem which benefits everyone. Okay? So being hyperlocal is absolutely important. So Redbus is a good example. Prayer, second marriage, which has changed the culture and the norms, arranged marriages, all of them. The challenge with being digital, if you're a marketer, is a big question. Do you need to be proactive or do you need to be reactive? This is a question which marketers are always grappling with and organizations are grappling with all the time. Okay? So I believe anything which affects the privacy of the consumer, privacy of society, anything which affects the society in terms of safety, etc., you must always be proactive. I'm a great believer that in the digital world, consumers will give you a lot more trust in business if you have self-disclosure on your side. Okay? A digital world should force organizations as well as brands to disclose a lot more so that the two-way equation with consumers improves dramatically. Every case where you see the brand or the organization not disclosing enough, trust goes away. So my submission to you on all those parameters, please be proactive. But you can never be proactive on a host of menu items. There'll always be something which you have to be reactive. Something erupts somewhere. You have to be reactive to that. Okay? So that's my submission for you. Okay? In the Eastern world, all the factors like corruption, right to information, etc., most governments, most companies are going much more the proactive route. Okay? So, my final 3-4 slides. Lessons for business models from the East for the West. First, technology is disrupting every value chain. Every value chain. Any value chain where the middleman is making 20-25% margin and not adding any value is being disrupted. So lesson number 1, every value chain will get disrupted sooner or later. Okay? Be ready for it. It's happening already. It will happen even faster now. Okay? Second, you need a strong digital ecosystem. Okay? Digital ecosystem as opposed to a digital. You need a combination of digital plus physical. For example, one of the ideas which some of the fast-moving consumer goods companies are trying in the East is you order online, but the delivery happens from your grocer who's next door. Okay, so they're building an ecosystem saying, let's share the profits. I don't need to do it. I continue to service you because you're important to me. But if some consumer has logged online, I will give him or her the option via a PIN code or whatever it is to contact the nearest grocer and buy. Okay, so I believe we'll see a lot more of the digital ecosystems where you work with somebody else to make it happen. Direct to consumer is an almost given. The only issue is how do you add surplus? Direct to consumer is happening, will happen more. Okay, so every brand will have to think about it. Direct to consumer is a given, absolute given. Okay, the faster you are on it, on the journey, the better it is for you and your brand. And finally, the biggest benefit of a digital ecosystem and a digital economy is the number of jobs which, in every Eastern country, it's the micro, small, and medium enterprises which are creating jobs. And they, with the help of digital ecosystems, are really flourishing and creating jobs. So it's actually good economics for the Eastern world in terms of embracing digital. So these are the lessons for business models. Lessons for brands. Okay, I see marketeers doing a lot of stuff. I look at it this way. The principles are the same of great brand building or great brand marketing. The practices can be different. The principles are the same. Okay? And I believe the digital world needs a new lexicon. Okay? Here's the point. When laptops were in, all digital advertising was called banners. If you go to anybody in the FMCG world and tell him a banner, it's a piece of cloth he puts out there 6x2. That's exactly what's happened digitally. Okay, a 6 centimeter by 2 centimeter. So my submission to all the digital people here, you really want to impact marketing, change the lexicon. Please do not borrow lexicon from the past. If you borrow lexicon from the past, you'll end up with banners. Okay, and they didn't go far. Okay, I really want you to think of new lexicon. Next, what I find is a brand is being revealed to society through the eyes and voice of the consumer. It's being revealed to society through the eyes and voice of the consumer. That's what's happening right now. But marketers are very confused. They're confusing likes, dislikes, etc., for metrics. They can never substitute it. Okay. It's extremely important for marketers and businesses to have the right business metrics. It's exactly what happened in the dot-com boom. In the dot-com boom, we thought money was unimportant. Money is always important. Cash flow is fundamental to a business. Okay, it's the same here. Don't get carried away by likes and dislikes. Okay, a lot of people are throwing a lot of jargon because it's a new phenomenon in the East. My simple submission to you, finally, consumers must buy, finally, brands must win, and your business must grow. Okay? There are many, many things where there are a million likes. So what? Is there business being transacted? That question marketers are not answering. That's one. Next, which I find a little difficult to accept is, marketers are targeting very wide in a digital world. So their point is, let's run this on the social media and let's see what happens. That goes against the fundamentals of great brand marketing, which is focus. You have to do that for your audience. Because you run so many ads, 10 ads, 20 ads in the social world, doesn't give you the right to suddenly forget your target audience and go wide. And this is happening time and again. The first is the phenomenon of likes and dislikes. The second is, it is cheap, let's do many films and let's keep throwing it. Let's pepper the social media with lots of advertising. Something will stick. Okay, that's a Hail Mary pass. You're really hoping against hope. It doesn't work. The principles of marketing, going back to the basics of who's my target audience is clear. And finally, metrics are very, very important. So what I find in a digital world is for brands, we have to move from being part of the purchase basket, which is what we're trying to influence, to being a bouquet of ideas and conversations. That's the big shift you really need to make. Okay, today, a brand is sandwiched between two consumer conversations. That's what's happening. Earlier, the brand stood from the pulpit and talked, and consumers listened. No longer true. Today, consumers talk about brands, and brand wins or loses based on the idea and the conversation they have. So I'm a great advocate that you must go back to business metrics, and I humbly submit to all the people here in the digital world, do not borrow lexicon from the past. That's the biggest sin which you will do to your own craft. If you really want to improve it, find the new answers. Equally important is the impact of the organization on the organization in a digital world. I'm finding more and more when consumers talk about you, when consumer complaints come, etc. Most companies tend to dismiss it. There's one guy somewhere is talking about it. Okay, never dismiss that. Okay, in a digital world, the first responsibility of a company is to be humble, then to be responsive, then to orchestrate that response. That's what's important. And that's the difficult part. Because as you work function by function, nobody owns the digital consumer. Okay, but your brand is in serious trouble if you're not humble, responsive, or orchestrating the response. This is classically true of all the consumer complaints that you talk about. Okay, just go to your website and look at what consumers are talking about your products and where you're falling. Nobody is replying to them in most parts of the world. This is something that you really need to think about. And finally, I would say, in summary, we are already in a digital world, and the digital world is getting freer thanks to digital. That's my first submission to you. I showed you that only 88 countries were free. 45% of the world's countries were free. 55% of the world's countries were partially free or not free. Okay? Next, I talked about digital devices. Any economy which is less than $10,000 purchasing power parity has the capacity for only 2 or 2.3 digital devices, and one of them is a mobile phone. Okay? So we're talking mobile. We're talking mobile, we're talking social, we're talking e-commerce. Those are the real big trends which the East is really galloping on. And many, many business models are coming to the fore. All business models via the mobile phone are disrupting right now. Okay? It's the case of fasten your seatbelt for the current channel people. And finally, brands need to be extremely careful. They need to be humble, they need to be responsive, and they need to orchestrate a response. Because in a digital world, trust will be built of what other consumers are having conversations about you. Trust will not be built by what you're going to tell people. Okay? That's my humble learning after many, many years in digital in the Eastern world. This is what I see which is happening out there. So that's all I had to say, ladies and gentlemen. I've taken exactly 25 minutes. More than happy to take any thoughts or questions from your side. Thank you very much.
So many incredible insights there from Shiv. I'm running out of space in my notebook. So who here's got a question? I'll let these people leave. There's a hand up over here. Can you say what your name is and what you do, please?
Hi. Thanks a lot for the wonderful talk that you had. My name is Praveen. I work for AdSpruce. AdSpruce is a mobile video ad serving platform, and a lot of our values in the company coincide with what you have told. We are trying to get into the Eastern market in India, trying to work with advertisers and marketeers to run campaigns on the mobile inventory that we have, video campaigns on the mobile inventory. So there's a myth in the Indian market or in the Eastern market that a lot of feature phones are not there anymore. But from the recent studies that I've seen or I've read, I still believe that there is huge potential for the feature phone market. And the myth that only the metro city people have, smartphones which are more into buying high-end products. As well, I believe that the feature phone market people who are in the village and have a potential to buy high-end products is also very true.
True.
So do you believe in that, or do you see as a market?
The feature phone market is big. I mentioned it's 2.1 billion feature phones in the emerging economies. Okay, in India itself, your specific question is big. The key thing is the feature phone people do not have the kind of resolution to see your videos. So if you're really smart and targeted, you have to produce some low resolution videos for them. Okay, that's what is the answer that we are finding. Every time you throw videos, a low resolution video is far better for them. So target it for the right consumer is my point with the right phone.
Okay, can anyone here want to ask a question, or do I get to? Because I have a few. So, we're talking about feature phones and the feature phone opportunity. I think a lot of people in this room might be guilty of, when they're thinking about campaigns, about thinking smartphone first. What kind of campaign should we be looking at in India that really do harness the feature phones? How can you take a creative idea and actually rescale it for the feature phone? Do you have any examples that we can go off and look at?
I think you have to focus on language, you have to focus on the SMS medium, and you have to focus on the missed call phenomenon, as all three which I talked about. A very simple way of connecting to feature phone consumers is to tell them, here's a number, call me, I will get back to you. Okay, you take away the pain from the consumer of doing X number of things because he does not have the right phone. Okay, and then you engage with him in a different way. And many people have done this. Like I mentioned, cause marketing is big. The governments are doing it. You know, Barack Obama did it. Narendra Modi, our Prime Minister, and his party did tons of it. Okay, like sending SMSs to people and saying, call back. You can hear a speech or a short snippet of Mr. Modi and what he's going to say, etc. So lots and lots of people are already doing it.
We invited some questions from Twitter, and we got one or two, and one of them was about the new technology opportunity in India. So we've seen India move very rapidly to mobile. Do you think that there's an opportunity there, for example, for things like 3D printing, where
Yes.
a local shop would have a 3D printer and people come and make a cash payment? Do you see that happening in the near term?
Absolutely. I think it's already happening. Two things are happening in India, and I'm sorry, I didn't talk about that. The unique identification system. Okay, the government has a UID system, which many South American countries have come to India to pick that up. It's a very simple thing. Every consumer is biometrically acknowledged as being that consumer. Okay, now that is proof enough, like a passport or anything, to enter the formal economy. So a combination of UID plus mobile phone is a dramatic game changer, you know, for all emerging markets. Okay, so even if a government gives you dole or subsidy, they're now targeted directly on your mobile phone. So mobile commerce is going to be the next big idea if and only if the regulators permit it. In Kenya, 63% of Kenya's GDP goes to the mobile phone. 63%. If you go and speak to the Kenyans and the regulators, they'll say, we never thought it was this big, that's why we allowed all of it. Okay, so I think the combination of unique identification plus a mobile phone will be a very powerful mechanism for commerce.
Well, I'd just like to wrap up then and say thank you so much for a really illuminating discussion today. Could we all please give it up for Shiv?
Thank you.